Hi, and welcome to another edition of Pauline Interviews. Before I start interviewing on a very interesting topic and a very nice lady, I want to tell you where we're doing the interview from. We're here at the Crystal Crossroads in Newberg, Oregon. That's hard to say, Crystal Crossroads, but I've been practicing. In Newberg, Oregon, and it's a wonderful shop. They have all kinds of wonderful things here, and they do lectures and classes. You might want to check it out if you like crystals and art, herbs, I think essential oils, all kinds of wonderful things. And they're located in the Fred Meyer parking lot right off of 99. So I want to thank Ellen Hardy, the proprietor, for letting me use this wonderful space to do my interviews. And now I want to thank Lisa Ezell.
Yes.
Yes, who is a writer, the author. I'm so excited for you. And I just met you. Your first book ever.
It's my first book published.
Published. Okay.
I've been writing for decades, but this is the first one I've published.
101 Past Life Clues. Now, I was speaking with you before we started, and I said I've done interviews with past life regression therapists who use hypnosis, but your book is completely different.
Yes.
So tell us about it and how it's different.
It's different because I'm trying to teach people how to do it without hypnosis, because I've done past life regression under hypnosis and it was terrifying, and I've heard a lot of people, they're nervous. They're afraid they're going to get trapped, and I've tried to do past life regression with my husband using proven methods, and he would get stuck in the same type of places because the same regression doesn't work for every person. And so I started realizing people need to know how to do it without it, because I did my first life hypnosis or regression 20 years ago, and I haven't done it since, but I've uncovered at least 10 lives since.
I understand what you're saying, because one time one of my first paranormal shows was on past life regression therapy, and I like to do research first, and I watched this woman going back through a past life, and she had some bad ones, and she's crying, and I'm going, oh my God, help her, help her. Yeah. So the people that are doing the regressions, are they trained in how to get the person through this?
Some may be. I got a book from the library, and I was just going to figure out how to do it. And it was just as successful as those that you'd pay $100 to go to. I had the same experience of going back and having the memories.
And it's safe. You know.
You won't get trapped. You can't get stuck. But you will really feel what you felt.
I did twice I did a group session, and I did go back. I could see pictures. One of mine, I was in the Netherlands, and that makes sense to me because I love to ice skate, and I know they ice skate on the, and I love cold. I love the winter. I like snow and mountains. And another one, I went back to Norway, and I think I was living on a farm in Norway somewhere. Okay. So that kind of made sense to me. Now, if they found me in a tropical place in a hot climate, I say, that doesn't feel too.
Maybe that one's not so
I don't think that's true, but those made sense to me. So Edgar Cayce, I remember Edgar Cayce, yes, but I've got his tapes and his books. I think he's kind of doing what you're doing. He says, do you like this kind of furniture?
Yes.
So you explain.
Well, this book turned out being something completely different than it started out. I think it ended up being what Spirit wanted it to be instead of what I wanted it to be. It helps people ask why they like a certain thing, why they don't like certain things, and if you can pinpoint enough things, you have those memories within you. You don't have to go anywhere else, you don't have to pay anybody, you just start paying attention, and your memories will start developing, and you put them in a little, I'm trying to call it like a soul map or a soul tree, and they'll end up being in one place or another in different times.
Now you titled this 101 Past Life Clues. So those are the clues.
Yeah, this is just, I actually have another one that's like 10,000 clues, because literally they're everywhere. Wow. You just start paying attention. And
to what you like and what, you know, like even a country you might go to. I was telling a friend that out of college, I went to Germany, and I thought, oh my, I was born actually in the British Isles, which I do resonate with, but I felt like I belonged to Germany when I got there. Oh my gosh. And then when I came to the Northwest, I felt the same way. And I've lived in 3 states, and this is the one that I feel most at home. And I've been all over Europe, and I think Germany is one of the places, and Austria, the Bavarian, the Alps, and and I know that I was a skier and I love mountains, and so I know I resonate with those areas. So that's a clue.
It's definitely a clue. I started getting clues as far back as 3 and 4 years old, and it helped me figure out which karmic debts I was going to be repaying and who was involved. And it was sort of life-changing when you put full circle. The whole reason you're here is to pay back certain karmic debts and things you did to other people.
3 or 4 years old, that's pretty young.
It was pretty young. And when I actually finally tied that whole circle together, I was 41. So it took me 35, 36 years to figure out the whole karmic circle.
I was going to ask you how you got started, so you answered my question. I didn't have to ask it. So you started. So this leads me to the question, you know, you remembered things. Why do we forget? I mean, most people would not remember any past lives. What's the reason to forget them?
Because some of them are not very good. And our soul is sort of like keeping us protected and safe. It was terrifying for a 3-year-old to be reliving how I died.
And how was that? What happened? You don't have
No. It's just
You're reliving it now.
You feel it. Every time I would close my eyes, I would see the exact same story, whether I was asleep, whether I was awake, and I thought it's just a bad dream. Well, when you see and learn the history that it actually did happen to people and where it happened, and you actually see the stone that was it's powerful when you see what you felt in history, in the history books, on a Discovery Show channel. It was in my head. How can it be in real life? But when I saw the stone that crushed me, I was like, that's my stone.
How old were you when you died in that past life?
I was a Viking warrior, and when you are injured on the battlefield, a lot of times instead of carrying you off to, back home, they will bury you on the field, and they will just put a giant rock on you and crush you. And that
Even if you're alive?
But you're gonna die. That's how to die. It's your war. You're going to die. They know there's no way to save you. It's like just the last moment. So every time I would close my eyes, I saw this rock right here, and I could feel the cold, and I could see around me, but I knew, like,
Now how does that help you, reliving that horrible thing?
Because it tied the karmic debt that I needed to repay in this life. I was able to see, you did some bad things
as a Viking.
And you are finally strong enough to repay those debts. And at 40, I was able to figure out why and who and where and it all, and then it made perfect sense. And then that debt was like lifted off, and I was...
How did you repay your debt, though?
I felt the abuse that I had done to someone else.
Oh, okay, so that's right, you'd feel, because I've read too that, instead of their judgment when you cross over, you go through these emotional feelings, so you feel everything you've done to everybody else.
And
that makes sense.
It was actually physically done to me. I repaid those same things I did to someone else.
You mentioned that you were a warrior, so you were a man.
I was.
So when past lives, you could be a different sex, you could be a different race.
Yes, I've been several races. Ethnicities. It's a tough word for me. But I remember being Native American. I remember being African American. I've been male and female. I've been destitute, poor. I've been wealthy.
So the whole gamut. Our country is still relatively young in believing in reincarnation, but places like India and Asia, places like that, that's what they...
It's older than Christianity, but over here in America, it's like you can't talk about it. I had never been raised on it. First time I heard about it, I was like, that's heresy. What are you talking about?
See, I always resonated with it.
Yeah.
And I love there's some movies, like one was a musical called On a Clear Day.
I have not seen that.
That is Barbara Streisand, and she remembers a past life.
Really? I'll have to see that.
And it's a great show, On a Clear Day. And then there was one that was a little sadder, And it brings to the point what you said about taking somebody back to past life and they suffer. It was called Audrey Rose.
Okay.
And this little girl had died in a fire. And then she came back, and the hypnotist was taking her back to that, relive that, and because she suffered so much in the fire, it actually killed her, taking her back.
You're kidding.
Yeah, it was called Audrey Rose.
Was that a true, I mean, did that
I'm not
actually
sure
happen?
if it was a true story, but it was very intense. And so when the girl died, the man who didn't do the regression, but who was a scientist, it had been his daughter previously.
Oh,
and
okay.
so he comforted the mother and explained the wheel of, what he called
okay.
the wheel of life, or
The circle of life.
circle of life.
Yeah.
He said, you know, she will go on and on and on and
Yes.
on. It comforted her because this girl he had tracked her down had been his daughter. She died accidentally in a car fire, and then she was reliving having these. Well, anyway, it's Audrey Rose, but
Wow, I'll have to watch that. I do understand what you're saying about people really feeling it, because when I did my first regression, I actually ended up waking up with my hands all distorted. I was super hot. I couldn't. Oh, sorry if I messed with that, but I
no,
was like
you're
all
good.
distorted, and I couldn't even move. And when I like put it all together, I had injured myself so bad that I couldn't use my hands, and I ended up using my feet as hands for the rest of my life. And I lived in a hospital, and it was so real.
that was another life.
Yeah.
Oh God.
I went to the library because I'm like, that can't be real. And I actually could find the historical record of people being injured and where they would go. And
That's a good point. That's like proof.
Yeah.
I forget the name. Not Audie Murphy. He's an actor. Something Bridie Murphy.
Okay.
Yeah, I think she went back to past life, and I think was she the Irish woman who died young and left 3 or 4 children behind, and she went back to Ireland and located her children who were grown up. A couple of them weren't quite sure, but a couple of them believed her.
Wow.
So I mean, and so she goes back. So I've heard about that. People feel that they know that they were somebody sometime else, and they go back, and they, like you did, they actually found it.
you can find it.
can find it.
I have found. I mean, some history you can't. You know, they weren't recording stuff. I mean, not everybody had time to blog. They're growing food. You know,
Yeah, right, or talk.
but certain people in history,
Yeah.
you can actually go back and verify dates and.
You know, it's interesting because, you know, when souls are coming to creation, like we can only speculate, some souls have been here many, many times, have many lives, and some you say, oh, I'm an old soul, and some people go, no, I'm just a new soul.
Yeah.
I mean, can you verify that from retrieving some past lives? I mean, how do you, that's kind of
I
difficult.
think it depends on how you treat people.
How spiritually advanced you are.
Well, not just that, because I wasn't spiritually advanced. I would say I'm still on the, you know, I'm.
But you're treating people with
But treating
kindness.
people with kindness, because if you continue to make bad karma over and over, you're going to continue to have a rough time. So people who are good on the inside, I think, tells a lot about. Yeah.
So yeah, I was just looking at my questions because sometimes I don't want to miss something. But, but I think you mainly answered this one. How does knowing our past lives help us? It helps us with our karma.
It helps with our karma. It's actually improved relationships between my parents.
How so?
I had a very estranged relationship, and it helped me figure out the whole purpose and why. And I spent 14 years not even talking to them. And now I have a relationship. It's not perfect, but
Was it from another lifetime?
no, it was from this lifetime.
Oh, okay.
It was child abuse and things like that, and being placed in foster care and all that. But I understand why. I was given another opportunity to see how
healing for you.
how to heal, how to forgive. I needed forgiveness in other lives, and I have to.
Yeah, you've done things, and
I've done things, and you know, it's.
You know, this. I did interviews with other people, and I talked about reincarnation, and then I talked about walk-ins. Now, reincarnation is you are reborn into a new body, new soul. But walk-in is a little different in that it's reincarnation sped up.
Okay.
In that somebody, let's say, somebody came in with, we supposedly come in with a reason to come in, like we have a contract for spiritual growth.
Okay.
And so, for whatever reason this person is having a hard time fulfilling the contract, and they don't want to be in the body, they don't want to be physical anymore. So on a spiritual level, they make, I interviewed a couple of walk-ins, they make an agreement to let the more highly evolved spirit trade places with them. So that's kind of, I feel, reincarnation sped up a little bit.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah. You know, I don't understand why people that do past life regression therapy, and a lot of good people do it, that they aren't safeguarding the person that's going through a past life.
They have no idea what they're going to see.
Yeah, and then they don't know how to handle it.
They don't know how, I mean, because when you are I've done past life regressions for my friends and for my husband, and you have no idea what's going on until they come out, and whether they share it with you or whether they don't. For example, a friend of mine, I was doing a past life regression, just the self-hypnosis stuff you can find. And by the time I got done, he's like, I didn't see anything. And I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, well, because you kept saying, look down, look at my feet, look at what I'm wearing, look around. He's like, I was blind. I couldn't see anything. So the whole entire time he's going, what's happening? He was blind. So when the person who's offering the regression, until they come out of it, they have no idea if they feel trapped, if they're in another planet, another realm.
I've heard them say sometimes in regression that you're just observing, especially when they take them back to the moment they die. They say you're just observing. And I was telling you about a wonderful past life regression therapist, Julia Ingram, and she works with people with phobias. Now, you come into this lifetime and you know, oh, I'm afraid of heights, or I'm afraid of this or that. And where does that come from, you know?
Well, that's one of the things in my book. It asks you to question why you have phobias. I am deathly afraid of snakes. Snakes actually is one of my big-time phobias, and I had no reason, and I ended up figuring out I lived in Australia a very long time ago, and a snake had something to do with it. And I also hate wearing anything on my neck. Didn't realize it till I was approximately 40 years old. I don't like necklaces. It doesn't matter if they're diamonds.
Wow.
I hate anything around my neck. And I did a little bit of research, and I found enough reasons that
You strangled?
I'm not sure yet. I'm still doing research, but none of it ends well.
Oh, God, scary.
But
it could be scary, though. I mean, I love going to past lives, you know, to benefit and learn. But by the same token, it can be really scary.
It can be scary, but that's why I do it this way, because you can learn, I might have been a Viking, I might have been in Greece, I might have been in Rome, and you don't have to have all that scary emotion stuff.
Yeah. You know, people do all the DNA testing. You know, I tell them, I said, I know, you know, my mother, my father, my grandparents, and I said, besides, I believe in past lives, so I don't, you know, I'd rather know I was in a previous life, but you know, everybody has their own thing. Now, you brought some things. Just tell us about them, because we will.
I brought some things because my husband calls me a hoarder. I like to collect old things, antiques, vintage.
And how does that help? Is that part of helping people discover their past lives?
Well, in here, I have a special section for people who like to collect certain things, because if you actually start paying attention to what you collect, it might help pinpoint your lives.
I collect lots of crystals.
Okay.
I really feel I was a healer in a past life.
That is very, very possible.
And I love plants. I mean, I must have been a gardener in a past life.
Or you could have been one of those
herbalist.
An herbalist,
yes. I don't do herbs, but not for healing. I just adore plants.
Just gardening.
Oh yeah, I'd rather buy a plant than I don't know, a piece of jewelry.
Well, here's a funny thing. When I was, I don't know, people say what they want to have when they would grow up or what they want to be.
Yeah.
I wanted to own a flower shop. Okay.
I could do that.
But I realized it was because I loved the smell of flowers. And I walked into a flower shop one day, and I just love flowers. Well, I found out one of my past lives I had a beautiful garden and tons and tons of flowers. So everything that I love or everything that I hate has a connection to my lives.
I knew what I loved when I was a little girl. I loved to perform. I'd write plays and do costumes. My dad built me a stage.
Yeah.
And so I took voice lessons. I've been doing cabaret and stuff. But it seems like ever since I was little, I've always known what I love. Well, I've loved the music first and the crystals and the plants. But I have these passions. So they come from another...
They come from another life. Because they're all so different. You can like one thing that's completely opposite. I mean, like chainmail. First time I went to the Renaissance Festival, this was before I'd even started on this book or anything, before I'd even really delved into past lives. And I just loved chainmail, and I started making it. I had no idea how hard.
What's chainmail?
Chainmail is what the Vikings used, or not the Vikings, some of the Vikings, but it's the Renaissance, the knights. They'd use it to protect themselves from swords. I brought some to show that I made.
Chainmail. Well,
chainmail.
You can tell us about what you brought. We'll show it while we're talking.
Yeah.
But tell us some of the things. Can you remember what you brought and talk about it?
Well, I brought some chainmail. I bought some little bottles, because a lot of people love to collect little bottles.
They do.
Certain colors.
Yes.
I started noticing I had a lot of certain things, but they didn't seem to go together. When I started researching the history of some of these things, they all kind of grouped together.
Okay.
And
so you brought bottles.
I bought bottles. I bought chainmail.
And what else did you bring?
Books. People love antique books, but not everybody. Now, I had a stack of books here or here, and it was sort of, I wanted to do like a little test for you to see if you could help me figure out
the books.
Well, your past lives.
Oh,
I brought a few things, so you could say, well, I like this one, or I like this one, or
you know, I got a great idea. Let's end this interview and let's do a second interview, and we'll have some of your items, and we'll see if we can detect one of my past lives.
Well, you know, because you just say, well, I'd rather have this, this, or this.
Yeah.
And you put them together, and they'll start to group together.
That sounds like fun. Let's do that. Okay. Okay. Well, stay tuned. We're going to do part 2 with Lisa on past lives. I'm sure you'll enjoy it. Be ready for part 2 in just a minute. Thank you.